Ben Wiersma Show live on SVK, where we dive into the topic of diversity, equity, and inclusion within the food service industry. I'm your host, Ben Wiersma, and I'm thrilled to be here today with you. We have two amazing guests on the show. We have Matt Plapp, CEO and founder of America's Best Restaurant, and a talented author and podcast host. We have Chris Williams, the director of brand culture for Walk On Sports Bistreaux. So stay with us. When we return, we're going to dive into the topic of leveraging diversity to grow your teams, your businesses, and your community. Roll the intro. Well, thank you all for joining us today. Before we dive into the topic of leveraging diversity to really grow your teams, your business, and your community, I want to take a moment. I want to introduce our guests this morning. So we have Matt Plapp, who's the CEO, founder of America's Best Restaurants, and author of a number of books, including Don't 86 Your Restaurant Sales, Sell More Slices, Restaurant Marketing That Works, as well as, Matt has a long history in media, marketing, and sales, with a passion for food and beverage. I'm thrilled to have Matt on the show today. And I also want to make a note that Matt has a great podcast that really helps solve a lot of business owners' problems and challenges. So make sure to check that out. And our second guest here today is Chris Williams. Chris Williams serves as the director of brand culture for Walk On Sports Bistreaux. Walk On is a 28 location, 400 plus employees, and is headquartered in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So, Chris is dedicated to inspiring a walk-on way of lifestyle. In his role, he works with many different areas of the business to build infrastructure that attracts, inspires, and develops teams, guests, and the community at large. And with many years in the industry, Chris is an inspiring leader and a great guest to have on the show. So thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, today I really want to dive into a bit around that branding and that marketing conversation when it comes to, your team, your business, and your community. But really, how do you leverage that, that diversity of of these areas, right? So one of the questions I had for you, Matt, was, in your opinion, why should an organization really care about, that diversity and inclusion?
Well, I mean, I think that's, for me, it's a loaded question from a couple angles, because, I've seen it in businesses like our business. I treat it like a college degree. I don't ask the question. I'm looking at the best candidate that's going to fit into our culture of our company. And I think restaurants are the same way, but at the same time, you can't be all, birds of, the same birds of the same feather. I think it brings a whole different mix, especially in the restaurant world. I mean, if you look at a restaurant, you want to attract people that want to enjoy your environment and your food. And, in my opinion, from a marketing standpoint, if, they see exactly the same thing from everybody, it makes them not feel like a place they're welcome. I remember, this is kind of a little different angle, but one of my friends' restaurants years ago was anti-tattoo, anti-earrings, anti-nose piercings. And it was kind of comical. You'd walk into his restaurant and the employees looked like they had been through a battle, because they had Band-Aids covering holes from rings. They had these weird sleeves on their arms covering tattoos. And I had to tell him, like, bro, you better wake up. This isn't 1990. This is 2000. This was like 2018. I'm like, you got to allow people to express themselves, and you're going to showcase your workforce online and also, within your four walls, it's going to attract people that want to come eat here. And if everybody looks identical, you better get used to having a pretty one-dimensional business, and that's not what it is nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely. It pushes that conversation of that inclusion piece, right?
Yep.
It's that proximity, right? When we see individuals, that look like us, it just builds on that inclusion. So.
Yeah, I remember the first time I went to my daughter's elementary school. She's 19 now, and she was, whatever elementary school age, 7, 8, 9, 10. And the part that excited me the most was when I walked into her class and I didn't see a bunch of little white girls. It was everybody. There was all different. It was, because when we're at Northern Kentucky, Toyota has plants here, or did. And there was a lot of different cultures in the classroom. And I was like, that's cool, because, I grew up in a school in the 80s in Northern Kentucky, probably up until high school. It was pretty much exactly everybody looked like me. And that just is what it is because of where we were. And so I looked at her elementary and I saw that. And I'm like, that's cool, because she's going to grow up in a different conversation and look at people, just like her. It's not unusual to see a Japanese kid or a Chinese kid or white or black or, straight or gay. I mean, she's grown up around all of it. And it's, like she comes home on weekends. She's a cheerleader in college. And when she comes home, it's funny to see the mix of people she brings home because they're everything. And it's cool to see.
Yeah, it's cool. It's interesting it's exciting how everything is really changing in that, just in the world in general, right? We're I know both of you are in the U.S. and I'm in Canada, and we're really seen as these countries of multiculturalism, and just that leveraging that diversity within our communities. So. So Chris, I got a question for you. I want to dive into this, with Walk On specifically. How has this conversation around diversity really shaped the business?
So when you look at walk-ons, like I was saying right before the show, everything that we were founded upon is really that team spirit. And we'd like to focus on the unity of that team spirit here at Walk-Ons. And we know that can only be derived from a diverse group that bring different skill sets, different talents, and most importantly, different perspectives. Because if you truly want to make the best decisions, it's got to come from differing perspectives. And, even if you look at our purpose, which is our ultimate why, is we bring people together. That's stated above all other things when it comes to our business. And if you look at things like our company promise is, we want to create an environment where everybody feels like they belong. If you take it back to that team mentality and really that sports concept ideal that we're derived from, it takes people with unique talents, unique skill sets to really drive a successful team. We believe, I think it was Vince Lombardi that said that a great team effort is a compilation of individual efforts focused on a common goal. Well, our common goal is hospitality. And, when it comes to hospitality, that word is really derived from the original Greek word, which is philoxenia. Well, that word may not be commonly known in society today, but xenophobia certainly is. And what philoxenia means is love of strangers, whereas that xenophobia means, fear or hatred of the unknown. We're looking to flip that script through hospitality and that philoxenia mindset to where we love strangers. We're going to put love and effort into everything that we do. We're going to put care into everything that we do and really develop relationships with people regardless of background. We want a diverse team because we want those people bringing those unique perspectives and talents. Like I said, we truly believe that that's what drives our team forward.
Yeah, that's a great company value, right? When you're pushing for that inclusion, that's fantastic. So I guess for both of you, I want to ask this question really around, what would be some ways that a restaurant brand could do to, what are some things that they could do to positively impact this diversity, inclusion, belonging, within their restaurants?
Matt, you want to take the lead or you want me to go, man?
I'll let you tackle this one first.
All right. So we're talking about impacting both internally and externally, correct, Ben?
Yeah. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
All right. So, we just talked a lot about internal impact and how we really want to build those loving teams that take care of one another and really look out for each other first and foremost. And, put team above self. That's another big piece of what we focus on. But, to Matt's point earlier, when he was talking about, how your team looks and how that's presented to society. I mean, we truly believe that building a strong culture will evolve into impacting society, which is where lifestyle is born. And when we're bringing in people from, different communities, we need to focus on uniqueness, focus on what makes people different and really celebrate that. That underdog mindset is what we build a lot on. And that comes from people with backgrounds where they've had to overcome adversity. And we celebrate that. And we want to bring those people in. So the stories that we tell, the stories that we share, it's not about the burgers. It's not about the beer. It's not about, what we do, what all other restaurants do. It's about celebrating those unique stories that are out there and what makes people unique and what makes people special. In order to make somebody feel special, you have to treat them as unique, because if you go up and treat every single person exactly like you treated everyone else, then they're never going to feel special, because you're just categorizing people and you're not allowing them to truly be their unique, great self. So when we talk about internally, we really drive that forward with our team. And we know that the better that we are as a team, the better we're going to impact society, impact our communities, and really be a restaurant that it's not just another restaurant that happens to be in community, but truly be that community's restaurant and seek out new and different ways to impact externally through the things that we do internally, and always have that mindset and that focus.
Yeah, I like that. I like that piece around, having your staff really encourage them to approach the way they serve, the way they engage with customers in new and unique ways. Nobody wants to get served by a robot, right? Which is just that rinse and repeat. So I like that takeaway. That's an interesting take on it. I appreciate that. So maybe Matt, over to yourself. I'll kind of premise the same question, maybe with that marketing and media lens. How could a brand, from a branding standpoint, what are some ways that a restaurant could positively impact that diversity and inclusion within their four walls and within their community?
So I was a guest on a podcast a week ago, and we were talking about hiring, because in the States, I'm not sure if it's like that in Canada, but in the States, restaurants are struggling to get people. And I've got restaurants across the country that aren't struggling, and they're not struggling because outwardly, when people look in from a distance, when friends tell stories to their friends about where they work, they like it. They enjoy it. It's fun. It's an atmosphere people want to be around. And I think this goes to the same thing. I wrote a note when he was talking about, leaders. I think that inclusion starts with the leaders. Like I've got a friend of mine whose son's a quarterback in the NFL. And we were talking, probably 2 years ago. And we were talking about the Colin Kaepernick situation in the United States. And we were talking about it, not laughing, but kind of just like, wow, it's so outwardly obvious that the leaders of the NFL teams did not want him on any team. Whether you believe in his cause or not, it was pretty much done to say, hey, he will never play in the NFL again. And this guy's son had heard the same things, and he was never coming back, period. Well, that was, that's the leadership of those teams. If those people feel that way that lead those teams, think about how that trickles down. One thing I pride myself on, and I've told a lot of people in our company across this, because we have 40 plus full and part-time people, and we have contractors and, here and across other countries. One thing we don't really focus on much is on the front end of the conversation, the diversity, because we're accepting of anything. I don't care if you have a college degree, a high school degree. I don't care if you're white or black or gay or straight. To me, it comes down to if you fit our culture and you fit the beliefs we have. And one thing I try to work my hardest on with leading our company and our team is leading it correctly. It doesn't matter who you are. I remember I was telling a friend of mine about a year ago, we were at a business meeting back in January of 2020, about a year and a half ago. And we were at a meeting in California, and there was so much stuff happening in the world of the United States, political and this and that, and Facebook and all the stuff online. And I'm in this room with about 20 other business owners, some restaurant owners and some marketers. And there was literally every possible variation of human being in that room. No lie. I mean, I remember I got back and told my wife, it's pretty cool. I said, because we're in this meeting and we're talking about how to market restaurants correctly. And there was no looking across the room that guy's white, that guy's black, she's straight, she's not, he's Japanese, he's Chinese. There was nothing. We were there to have a conversation about how to improve the restaurant and improve their restaurants. But then you come back home and you get on Facebook and you see people across the street from you yelling and screaming about stupid crap. And so I think it all starts with that if you're a restaurant and you talk about marketing, it's got to be genuine. Your employees are going to come from your business. More than likely, the right employees that stay with you a long time are going to come from referrals from people who work for you. And if they know you as a leader, treat everybody, you want everybody there that's there for like he mentioned, we're there, it's hospitality. You're there to make sure that whoever walks in the door and sits down at that table has an awesome experience, an awesome meal, and enjoys the time they're spending with their friends or family. And I think if you treat people in a manner within the four walls, and like a buddy of mine told me a while back, it's not what you do, not how you lead your company when people watching, it's when they're not watching. And you see all these people always get caught in these aha moments with emails and things happening out there. Well, that's who you are. And I think if you lead your company, your restaurant inside, the marketing component's easy because your employees want to be there. And when one of those employees tells another friend who might come from a different background or come from a different part of town or, different genders, whatever it is, they see that this person genuinely treats the employees the way they need to be treated, no matter who you are or what you are, then I think it'll attract the right type of people. And I see that a lot with restaurants now saying, we can't find employees. I'm like, that's because you're a terrible boss. That's because your restaurant is managed incorrectly because the people are treated like crap because it doesn't look like a sexy place to work. It doesn't look like a fun place to work. And I think that's, for me, inclusion within our business and within people we coach, it comes from the leader. That if you're not leading it correctly, it's pretty obvious to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's very true. I'm a big believer in leadership that is inclusive and is diverse and approaches it with that lens. And you're right. We have labor challenges here in Canada, very similar to what you have in the US. And, a lot of it comes down to, like you said, that leadership piece and being a fun, attractive place to work, right? You're trying to get a young person to join the industry and work in, not always a pleasant environment. Kitchens can be, fast paced, busy places, hot, sweaty kitchens. And the Apple store looks so attractive sometimes, right?
Yep.
And when you're thinking of other places that can pull from that similar labor pool. So that's a really good piece around that leadership. I like that a lot.
And it comes down to, like you mentioned, the marketing part. I think sometimes people focus too much on trying to paint a picture that's not real. Like literally 2 of our employees we hired in the past month. One of them is a late 60s male and one's an early 20s female. They both came for the same reasons because they saw something they liked. They were referred here. They didn't come from a help wanted ad. They loved the energy. And it was everything that's within the 4 walls that kind of resonated out where I could project that we're this cool place or we're this, but when they walk in the door, when they don't have that referral or that, no like and trust transferred from somebody else, it's going to, they'll be a short-term person. And that's why the restaurant have problems in the United States and probably Canada is there's too many people in those 4 walls that aren't there for the right reasons.
Yep. Very true. Very true. Yeah. I like that. So, as we look at this this conversation around community, I want to get your thoughts. So maybe I'll pass this one to you, Chris. I know community is such a big part of Walk On. What are some ways that the Walk On brand and yourself have partnered or would suggest that restaurants partner with their community? So I guess if you explain, what are some ways that you've, tangible ways that your brand has partnered with community, and what could be some ways that maybe a restaurant that's looking at partnering with their community could head in that direction?
Yeah. First and foremost, Matt, I love what you said about the leadership piece. Leaders impact team impacts guests impact, the financial success of the restaurant. And it really has to be looked at that way, because you have to dive into that people first mentality and truly find the right leaders. Like we don't look at resume all-stars. We look at people's hearts and minds and really truly identify what we want there, because the heart and the mind, that's not represented in outward appearance. And I think that's what we're talking about here. And as long as we can stay focused on those things, that's definitely the way that we want to go. Now, speaking to the community piece, community, it really is everything. So when we talk about the impact that we make through our cultural pieces, we are talking about impacting our team first and foremost. Then we're talking about impacting our guests. And thirdly, we're talking about impacting our community, and it's got to be authentic. I love what you guys were talking about when it comes to authenticity. So, we're called walk-ons because our founder was a walk-on basketball player and wanted to create a restaurant concept around the spirit of what it means to have the heart of a walk-on, that driving spirit, that underdog mentality. That's really where we come from. So authenticity is really everything to us, because there's so many restaurants out there. I mean, Matt, I know you talk to them all the time, right? There's so many restaurants. We've got to be authentic, because that's what's going to make it different. 80% of what we do is exactly the same as what everybody else is doing. It's that 20% that revolves around the people, that team, guest, community, that really is going to make the difference and is the competitive advantage for us. Now, speaking directly to community and how restaurants should approach that, I think I mentioned it earlier, but you don't want to just be another restaurant in the community. You've got to be the community's restaurant. And the difference is that community needs to call you their own, right? So, COVID-19, everybody shut down. We're sitting in a room together knowing that we don't know what the future looks like, right? We're sitting with our founder, our president, just kind of looking at the future and just stressed about it, right? So the first move to make was not one that was strategically wise if you have that kind of finite short-term mindset. And that was, we wanted to make sure that regardless of who we had to furlough, that we were going to make sure that they got a hot meal every single day, and that everybody that lived in their household got a hot meal every single day. So that was just for the teammates that were furloughed from us, right? Well, that expanded to partnering in a deal with Furlough Kitchen out of Dallas, Texas, to where we were able to regionally expand upon making sure that our team first and foremost was fed. Well, that expanded as well. We said that's not enough. We're going to go out there and we are going to feed the community. We are going to, every single person that was furloughed, regardless of industry, could come to one of our restaurants and get a hot meal for themselves and for their family. So you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars being given away into these communities when we're not bringing in anything. So we're most of our restaurants are franchised, right? We cut royalties. We said, we know these franchise owners out here aren't making money. We've got to do what it takes to help make sure that they can live through this as well, right? So we stop taking royalties, which is our primary revenue source. Mm-hmm. We're not making money in our restaurants because it's only takeout, and we can only build so much from that. But we're giving away hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of food. So I tell that story to say it's got to be authentic. It's got to be genuine to your direct community. You've got to find ways to impact your community in a unique way that best fits that community. We had multiple hurricanes hit Louisiana over this past year. We went down there and fed people, right? They had a unique need. We had the resources to fulfill that need, and we went in and did something about it. That's got to be the way that it's approached. Now, there's not always going to be these catastrophes. Hopefully not. But you've got to find ways to get into local schools, get into local groups, find local sports teams, and really find a way to support them. Don't wait for somebody to come knocking on your front door, asking for, gift cards for their giveaway for whatever benefit that they have. go out there, seek out opportunities to impact the community. Don't wait on it, because the bare minimum expectation is that you do answer the door and do give away a couple of gift cards when somebody comes knocking. But the community is not going to respect that. They're not going to buy into that. You have to do something to get out there and impact the community. Don't wait for it to come to you.
Yeah, and I like that approach of actively seeking, an organization or a community movement that resonates with what you're about, right?
Yeah.
I like that. That's a great focus for anyone in the industry, any restaurateur that's thinking about, how do I approach this with a bit more, thought behind it, right? I like that piece. That's very, very good. Thanks for that.
Can I chime in on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Please do.
So I made a couple notes. By the way, I'm not texting on my phone. If you see me looking down, I'm making some notes so I remember what to say. The one thing because we advise a lot of clients talk to us and ask us what we see works, because we're a unique situation. We don't see what happens in 40 or so, let's say, walk-ons. We see what happens in 400 or so, all sorts of brands. And so we get to see, like my account managers, my team, get to see what works inside of restaurants. Hey, Matt, what works to hire people? What works on Facebook, Instagram, whatever, in store? And so one question that came up recently was about community support. And we were talking, I said, well, there's two things I think that restaurants make a huge mistake on that affect your marketing and affect your community support. And they said, what? I said, you pick what, number one, what he just mentioned, who calls. And number two, you pick what's near and dear to the owner. I said, if you're a restaurant, you've got 50 employees, go to every employee and say, hey, we're going to let you champion one cause this year. And they're all going to have a cause that's near and dear to them. Some of them might have, one of my employees is hardcore with suicide prevention because there's some things in his life. I've got another friend that's she's really involved in the LGBTQ community. And I've got another employee that's really involved in inner city wealth and distribution. And so go to them if you're an employee, if you're a boss, and say, hey, I've got 50 people. Instead of us going out and taking all these things, let's support what you support. You pick something, your school, your community, your church, whatever organization is near and dear to you, and let's figure out a way to support it. And so now all of a sudden that gives that person a microphone. The other thing we advise a lot, and very few take us up on this, and especially they're so concerned with specific brands and marketing. One of the reasons people's marketing looks the same is it comes from a guy like me. If Matt Plapp has a restaurant and I've got 80 employees, and every Facebook post, Instagram post, TikTok, email, whatever you name, comes from my vision, it's going to go after who I am. It's going to go, I'm speaking right to a very specific audience. Whereas if I take an iPhone and I put it at the front register and say, hey, every hour I want one of you to go around and capture something in the restaurant, capture something in the community, and post it on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, it's going to reflect their personalities. Because now you got a 19-year-old college girl that's working your host stand, telling some stories on social media on behalf of the brand. Then you got a cook, then you got a manager, then you've got a host, a server. You've got all these different people. And when they start doing that, now all of a sudden your brand takes on a different look that people from the outside, like a picture my 19-year-old daughter takes, that my 17-year-old son takes, that my 45-year-old wife takes, and that I take, all are going to attract different responses from different people. And so is the same thing. So if you look at your marketing and that aspect, and you also look at your community involvement, instead of Matt Plapp picking Ryle High School and the Over the Rhine Community Foundation and Goodwill, go to your employees and say, what's near and dear to you, and get involved in what they're involved with, what's impacted them, because every one of them has had something impact their family from some angle. And now all of a sudden you've got everybody involved, and you bring so many, talk about being diverse. You bring so many different opinions into the restaurant that you're near and dear to a lot of different people.
Yeah, I really like that. That's great advice with getting your teams involved in that. I'm a big believer, especially in that social media piece around getting that, just that diversity of thought, right?
Yeah.
How do you get a group of individuals that just see the world differently than all of us, right? I think that's a great way to grow your brand.
Yeah, diversity of thought. I like that. That's exactly. I was trying to get that out earlier, but that's exactly it's a different lens that everybody sees through.
Absolutely. And, that can go into every area of your business, right? It could go into menu, menu development. It can go into the marketing. It can go into the look and feel of the physical restaurant itself, and any of these community, activities that you take part in. So I'm a big believer in that diversity of thought and leveraging those teams to grow your brand, right? Grow your business, grow your guest, and grow the community. So I want to thank you both very, very much for your time today on the show. I think this is a really engaging conversation, around a topic that's near and dear to myself and all of us on here. So, I think this is an amazing chance to dive further into that topic around, how to leverage your teams and your community and your brand to really grow that conversation of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I want to thank both of you for joining us on the show. Like I always say, remember to share food and care for one another. So thank you both for joining us.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
You wanna say something, don't try. You better get to work now. You wanna do something, don't try. Don't try. Hold tight. I'm gonna do something to try. You will never ever hurt. I'm gonna put something on.